Welcome back to No Sleep Teal, a show dedicated to discussion involving the soon to be and once again AFC South champions, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Travis Reier along with Evan Reier. And Evan, it is July the 18th, 2024. We didn't really realize until like a day or so ago just how big this day would be, right? It is
Yeah.
retro jersey and really just the retro theme drop day for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got those 30-year ago jerseys and a lot of apparel related to the Prowler of the Prowler.
Yeah. No, I this is something, we've been anticipating for not just this offseason, like basically for as long as I can remember being like, man, I can't wait for when we get to do this, when we get to bring back the like retro unis because the Jags have, when you think about specialty uniforms that the Jags have worn, I think the only one is the mustard yellow color rush jerseys, if you remember those.
Yeah.
Like we haven't gotten to do a whole lot of special stuff with the look. These look fantastic. I mean, the modern uniform, like design and like fabric and all that stuff, it's not, it doesn't have that classic 90s feel per se, but the numbers are on point. The color is on point. The logo's on point. It's a good day. I'm definitely very pleased with the rollout.
And teal is a form of green, and the green is on point. You had
Yeah.
lines down at Everbank Stadium today as early as right 9:04. For those who don't quite get that, I'm sure everyone that watches this understands that's the area code for Jacksonville. So that was clever. And we saw it from people camping out. I mean, people there well before the team shop opened down there at the stadium. I went by about an hour ago, swung by around, I guess it was 2 Eastern now, with your mom and your two sisters. And by that time, there wasn't a wait to get into the team store. But once you went in, it was bustling. It was still busy. There were still a lot of people in there just buying up stuff. I'm sure a lot of the pro staff type of jerseys and those type of things went quickly this morning, but I'm sure they're going to have plenty more on the way. And I got through there, Ev, without any purchases. So not bad.
It's a long off season. We've got the entire regular season. There's that's kind of my logic. Like I did look at the website when I dropped this morning and I woke up, but I'm gonna try and see. I don't want to just open the floodgates right away.
Yeah, Fanatics. You can go to Fanatics online. They're going to have all that stuff. But it is cool, right? Because people are
Absolutely.
excited. People are excited. And after that finish to that last season, I don't think you take much for granted. Now, it is far more than the national media have ever understood. It is a very, very passionate and very dedicated fan base. And kudos to the Jaguar fans once again on this Thursday for showing that even after the finish, missing out on the playoffs in 2023, still ready to go and looking forward to another season. We've talked about it here too in the previous weeks, man. It's been a hell of an offseason for the Jaguars, all things considered. Yeah, the Calvin Ridley thing stung a little bit. But otherwise, it's been active. It's been a front office and an ownership that has been proactive in free agency and trying to address specific needs. So I think there's a lot of reason for optimism, and on most of it is legitimate. Hey, Ev, did you see the? I'm sure you did. I mean, you saw the
Oh yeah.
drop by the Jaguars official account. Here you go.
Hey, you, what you gonna do? Hey, you, what you gonna do? Hey, you, what you gonna do? Them Jags coming for you.
How about it?
So good.
How about that? Andre
They,
Cisco and Tyson Campbell.
with the old clips playing Madden like from '98 or whatever. Like no, they
Leon
nailed it.
Searcy with the bars. Yeah. Do it, big Leon. Big Circe. I just don't recall many right offensive tackles, Evan, in NFL history that have had their own rap songs and or videos.
No, I mean, I personally can't name one. I'm sure there is one, but I can't name one.
I like sort of the filtering and the camera work they use, so they even have Cisco and Tyson Campbell and sort of this retro feel to it, like it was 30 years ago before 4K and all these things we have now. Yeah.
No, it's The thing I will say absolutely is about the Jaguars social media team is over the past couple of years, whatever they've been doing, like all their kind of rollout stuff like
They don't
this,
miss very
they're
often, do
very
they?
good. Like they
Yeah.
are very good.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought they should have had our Still the Show lady involved somehow, some way.
It's
I think
true.
I think that would have been good, but all things considered, easy to like the retro uni drop. And again, easy to be excited as we move past another mile marker. And man, we've got training camp. Literally, we're right on the doorstep
I know.
of that.
Less than 2 months to the regular season. I mean, it's been an off season that I've been excited for football season to come back around. It's kind of been a slow, it hasn't felt like it's gone by fast, but now, I mean, football is literally upon us. I cannot wait. So
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that Hall of Fame game up in Canton, they play it on like April 6th. Some
yeah,
years it
yeah,
feels like it gets up on you so quick, but it feels like by the time even that rolls around, we'll be ready to go. And of course, just 3 preseason games now with the 17 regular season games. We're going to be with 18 games in the regular season here, I think, pretty quickly too. So the owners, boy, got to hand it to NFL owners. They keep figuring out ways to
Oh,
print
well,
money, don't they?
speaking of NFL owners, today is also Shad Khan's birthday.
Happy birthday, SK.
Happy birthday, Mr. Khan. He gets his birthday present is the money rolling in from the retro lineup of jerseys and whatnot. So, but no, I noticed that today that it's also his birthday. So there you go.
There you go. Timed out just right. Hey, something I wanted to talk with you about, Ev, and we've had some fun with the different series that we've rolled out throughout this offseason. But when you look at this Jaguars roster and you think about prime first time Pro Bowl candidates, guys who have yet to make Pro Bowls, and that's before you talk about All Pro. As we know, All Pro is that sort
Top
of
of the
that
line.
carrot at the very top.
Yeah.
And but just from a Pro Bowl perspective, wanted to dig into some of that with you today. And when you look at it on the current roster right now, Josh Hines Allen, 2019, 2023 Pro Bowler, Trevor Lawrence, 2022, Evan Ingram, and Ross Matisick, the long
Yeah.
snapper last season for the Jaguars. And actually, you might chuckle a little bit about Ross, but he was a first team All Pro last season as well. And before Ross Matisick last season, you had to go back to 2017 for first team All Pro guys. And that was Jalen Ramsey and Calais Campbell as a part of that really good
Yeah.
2017 defense. But when you look at the current roster, those are the guys that in their past have made some Pro Bowls. And Mitch Morse, if you want to talk about acquisitions, 2022.
Yeah.
I thought this was interesting. Arik Armstead's never been a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
That was shocking to me. I don't know about you.
No, I had realized that, but it was literally just because of my job, of covering the 49ers just like on and off for the past like 4 or 5 years. Like I've just realized like, oh yeah, he's the type of player. I think defensive tackle kind of hybrid like DTDE type dudes. Sometimes it's tough for them to rack up the stats that attract eyeballs because at the end of the day, Pro Bowl's kind of like a popularity contest. It's not always going to be the absolute best guys at the top, but no, it is. There was a few different dudes on here that you'd be kind of like there's a world where I definitely thought that Gabe Davis probably had a Pro Bowl like Nam, and he doesn't.
No.
He's without one. So there's some guys that are still looking for it.
And you look at a guy like Arik Armstead coming over to the AFC from the NFC, and you think about, okay, if he's going to make, let's say, a Pro Bowl in 2024 for the 2025 Pro Bowl event, you still got guys like Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns,
Oh yeah,
Matt
dude.
Crosby of the Las Vegas Raiders, Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals. These were guys that were a year ago in the AFC were Pro Bowlers at end and at the interior spots. Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs, Quinnen Williams of the New York Jets, Justin Matabuke of the Baltimore Ravens. DeForest Buckner was an alternate last year, replaced Chris Jones in the Pro Bowl week. It's a very elite group, even when you're talking about Pro Bowl opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's in general right now, the AFC has been, it's felt like with the rise of the Chiefs, it's become like an arms race. Like there's several teams that have built like, pretty strong rosters. And yeah, and it's interesting too, because with Armstead, it's like he was coming from a situation which he was not a star because there were players around him on that defense that were just, on that level, like Bosa. Uh, but now he's kind of entering a situation where, Josh Hines Allen is absolutely, kind of at the top of the list. And there's some other guys that are definitely in the mix too. But Arik Armstead is probably the second most important person on this defense. So, but that doesn't mean that, even if he has a great season, like you said, there's a lot of talented players out there. So it's tough.
Here's one for you. What other team in the NFL has 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks on their roster, Ev? What about that? And they both made it the same year, Trevor and Mac Jones. Mac Jones was a Pro Bowler in 2022.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Dang. Jeez. Well, and even when Trevor Lawrence got the Pro Bowl, I was very stoked and I was like very happy for him. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess he had a Pro Bowl season. But I believe I know this. I think I've got this. Is it the Pittsburgh Steelers?
The Steelers have Russell Wilson. Did Justin Fields make a Pro Bowl?
I thought he did.
I'll have to look that up.
I'm sorry. I thought you were. I didn't know if you knew the answer to that question or if that was a hypothetical.
I don't know. Maybe he did.
Justin Fields does not have a Pro Bowl. Justin Fields finished top 10 in MVP voting in 2022 and did not get a Pro Bowl nod. So there you go. It can be a little finicky, but
when you think about the NFC for quarterbacks, they don't roll off the tongue as much for me as they do the AFC, because you start with Patrick Mahomes, then you get to Josh Allen. I guess Russell Wilson when he was in the NFC. Some guys like that.
I guess we're the only team with 2 Pro Bowl QBs.
Two, baby.
That's what you call depth. That's what you
call.
But
that's depth. We're traveling deep at the quarterback position with those 2 guys. But yeah, when we talk about Pro Bowl candidates as far as first-time Pro Bowlers, we'll start on the offensive side if you want. I really see maybe more of the possibilities being on defense, but Cam Robinson hadn't been to a Pro Bowl, at least based on my research. So I'm going to ask you this, Evan. Who is more likely of the Jags offensive tackles this year to make the Pro Bowl? Is it Cam at this point in his career, or do you think a young riser like Anton Harrison might beat him there?
I think I'm going to go with Cam, but not necessarily because of what I think, like quality of play, like who's going to outperform the other. But I think with offensive line, like Pro Bowl type stuff, you kind of have to have an established presence to really, get attention as an offensive lineman in the NFL. Anton Harrison had a solid first year, but I think by and large, if you went to random NFL fans across the country, they wouldn't know who Anton Harrison is. They probably at least have heard of Cam Robinson, So I think just let's say if they both had the same quality season, they both did very well. I think Cam Robinson just has a higher profile as a player that I'm gonna go there. But I mean, I could very much see Anton Harrison taking the step up and getting there.
Yeah, 3 tackles, I think it is, on your Pro Bowl roster. And
Right.
the line starts with Laramie Tunsil with the Houston Texans. You can go ahead and take one of those 3 out. So it's basically a rush for 2 spots. Deion Dawkins of the Bills last year, Reier Armstead of the Dolphins last year, along with Tunsil. Those were your 3 Pro Bowl tackles. So that's kind of how the competition stacks up when you're thinking about one of the Jaguars tackles perhaps picking up those honors in 2024. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Is Travon Walker, in your opinion, at a point where the expectation maybe should be in year 3, he should be a Pro Bowl guy? Or is it still, he's got a guy on his own team that he has to try to work past, because, it helps him in a lot of ways, I think. I think Josh Hines Allen being on the other side is beneficial to Travon Walker. But when you start thinking about things like Pro Bowls and individual honors, you're going to have to deal with that guy too.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a good opportunity for Travon to hit a Pro Bowl, and that's just because in general, okay, you put up 10 sacks last year. Definitely some of that was cleanup. With Arik Armstead in the mix to go with Josh Hines Allen, like there should still be plenty of opportunities for that, and Trayvon should be successful. If you get 11 or 12 sacks in a season, generally speaking, you're in the Pro Bowl conversation. Trayvon Walker wasn't that far away last year. He's at 10 sacks and a couple other nice stat boosts. But I think he's definitely in the mix. I would say on the defense, he's not my number one pick, to make the Pro Bowl for the first time. I actually think that's I'm gonna throw a curveball here. I think it's Devin Lloyd.
Wow.
I think
Okay.
Devin Lloyd.
Welcome aboard, Ev.
Yeah,
I'm
hopping on the train. I'm hopping on the Lloyd train.
You're on the L train. Yeah, the Lloyd train.
L train. Yeah, right, the L. But I really do think that he's, just like kind of in a similar way to Trayvon Walker, there's a setup around him to maximize his value, maximize his production. And yeah, I'll go with Lloyd on that. I was going to say on the offense, I feel very strongly that Travis Etienne, I think this is, if he has the same season he had last year, I think he will make it, only because of people loving fantasy football. Like, people will have him and be like, oh yeah, like when I'm voting on the Pro Bowl, like, sure, I'll vote for Etienne. He won me
And his touchdown numbers a year ago were up.
Yeah,
from
too.
previous year. Now his yards per touch and his yards per carry were down, but you're right. Those fantasy folks, they like those touchdowns.
Absolutely.
And those absolutely resonate in the fantasy world.
What about you? You got anything like specific? Any guys that you're?
Well, I was going to mention a guy we're going to talk about more coming up in just a little bit in our over-under segment this week. We're going to get into Andre Cisco at the safety position, but what about Andre Cisco as a Pro Bowler? He could certainly use it. Contract situation coming up. Seems like a good time for Andre to punch that ticket. Justin Simmons has been a multi-year sort of Pro Bowl guy in the AFC, but the Broncos cut him. I mean, you talk about safety value not being on par with a lot of other positions. Justin Simmons, a guy who made multiple Pro Bowls, multiple All-Pro seasons out in Denver, and released, and hasn't signed with another team as of yet, in large part because he's thinking like I'm thinking. I've been a top 5 safety.
Yeah.
But he's also 31 years old. And again, positional value matters. But what about Andre Cisco? I got him on my radar anyway.
No, for sure. I mean, again, it's kind of similar to what I was saying with ETN, where it's if he has a season like with the numbers that he had, like either last year or even the year before, like a safety getting 3 to 4 interceptions is typically pretty high, like in the current modern like NFL setup. So I mean, he has a year where, he puts up 4 interceptions, maybe, forces a couple fumbles, a sack or two, high tackle for loss number. That's the thing with Cisco, and something that people have complained about in the past is that while he does like to hit, he generally kind of protects a space. And as a safety, you're the last guy, right? You can't just run up and lay a dude out, whatever.
And then you miss and leave the gate wide open. Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, he has 2 career tackle for losses, Andre Cisco, 2 in his entire career. So maybe if he's a little bit more involved, if Ryan Nielsen shakes it up in terms of, coverage, like who he's blitzing, who he's not, maybe that like opens up those numbers. And Cisco's got a little bit more going on than the interceptions and passes defended. But yeah, for sure, Cisco's on the radar.
What about Christian Kirk? Going back to the offense, on the offensive side, a couple of years ago, he had the sort of catch numbers you want to see from one of those kind of guys. Obviously had the injury last season that sort of curtailed 2023 for him. But, you look at this Jags receiving core right now, Evan Ingram obviously is a volume guy at the tight end sort of hybrid position, but, and it's tough too. Again, you go back to, not just what you're capable of doing or what you might do, but then you look at other players in your conference like Tyreek Hill and Amari Cooper, who is still really good, undervalued if possible. Somehow Amari Cooper still is. Now, here's what could help Christian Kirk if he has the numbers. Keenan Allen is no longer in the AFC. Now, I know you've got guys coming from the NFC. to the AFC. We saw that from Green Bay to Las Vegas, right, with Devontae.
Yeah.
So it kind of works both ways. Jamar Chase still in the league in the conference with the Cincinnati Bengals. So space, as they say, Evan, sometimes is limited.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, it's like we said with, especially with quarterbacks, like, I mean, it is tough to find your way into that mix. But I can absolutely see a scenario where Christian Kirk, again, if he goes high volume, let's say 1,200 receiving yards, he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. That's where I'm a little, worried, just because, again, it is one of those things where outside of Jacksonville, we can, honk his horn. Like, we can always be, saying, oh, Christian Kirk should be a Pro Bowler, this and that. But we're a small market team. We don't necessarily have the same voting power as some of these other,
Very
bigger,
true.
long-term franchises. So, it's going to need to be just more than what he's kind of done recently, which is, awesome at what he does, but, a high volume, not necessarily an explosive type of player. We talk about receivers. I mean, I mentioned that Gabe Davis doesn't have a Pro Bowl. That I could see a scenario in which if him and Trevor hit it off, then he's got the big playability, the eye catching ability. People know him, and then also why not Brian Thomas Jr. Same deal. If him and Trevor get started early, he kind of shows that okay, that 4.2 speed is a little tough to deal with. It could definitely happen because he's got the flashiness, I think, to catch some eyeballs.
And there's definitely a need for that guy in that
Yeah, you gotta have,
offense. And
yeah,
I think
desperate
when you
for it.
think of even first round picks like Brian Thomas Jr., you're thinking, hey, this guy makes the all rookie team. That's a nice
Yeah,
introduction to the National Football League because a couple of the guys the Jags acquired on the defensive side, Ronald Darby, Darnell Savage, you go back to their rookie seasons 7, 8 years ago, whatever, they were all rookie guys.
yeah,
So that would be nice, certainly for Brian Thomas Jr. to clear with the opportunities he's going to have available to him. If he stays healthy, it's hard to imagine him not being able to put up enough. But it is a strong wide receiver class, as we know, in the
absolutely.
National Football League in 2024 as well. I'll tell you a guy I'm a little surprised hasn't already made a Pro Bowl is Logan Cook. He's had some nice years,
Yeah,
but he hasn't made it as a punter. Cam Little, who knows? Again, we talked about comfort and concern last week, and I thought yours with Trevor was great. I threw Cam Little out there because I do think in terms of just ability, he's very ready to kick in the National Football League. In terms of the wiring and some of the intangibles that go along with that, well,
yeah.
we don't quite know that yet. I think he's going to be fine. You got to see it first. But those are kind of the guys I had in mind. I don't know. Did I miss any?
I don't think so. Really, in terms of guy, like we could make an argument for a lot of different dudes, but in terms of the people that stand out, like to make it, I think we've hit them.
As far as first time Pro
Yeah,
Bowl
yeah,
candidates, again, that's the key there. We outlined the guys earlier on this Jaguars roster that have made it either with the Jags or
or
maybe with
otherwise.
their previous clubs. And with that, let's get back into some Andre Cisco. It's just an Andre Cisco Thursday here on the program. We had Andre Cisco in the hype video for the retro uniform drop, and we talked about him in relation with first-time Pro Bowl candidates on this Jaguars roster. Now, let's get into some over-unders for Andre Cisco, Evan. And I'm going to start with tackles. He had 62 last season after 73 stops in 2022. So with that, you know where I'm going with this, right down the middle. I'm going 67 and a half. And what do you think with that in terms of tackle total for Andre Cisco?
An interesting thing I think about with the tackle numbers, the volume of tackles, especially, is how many games are you able to play? The past 2 years, Cisco's played 15 games each season, whereas as a rookie, he did appear in all 17. The idea that he just plays 17 games, I think he clears that number just by, even if he has a okay season. If he does play all 17 games, I like to think he hits 70 or so. So I'm going to go over just on pure, just thinking about, how many games can he play? Because it's not like Cisco's, was pretty banged up last year. He only missed the 2 games, but it was definitely a talking point over the course of the season. But in general, he stayed pretty healthy in his NFL career. I like to think that he can stay on the field. And, his, again, like you said, contract year, you got to be thinking that even if he's not able to pull down a lot of interceptions or force a lot of turnovers, he's going to be as involved as he possibly can be on every play. So, yeah, I think the over on the tackles there for sure.
It's a great point about the best ability, which is availability. And in some ways, for Andre, I think that's been truly his best attribute the last few seasons is that he's been available. He hasn't always been great. I think there have been flashes where you could certainly see where when we talk about Pro Bowl possibilities, he would definitely rank at the top of the list on this team in terms of first timers. I'm also wondering a little bit about how the Jags are going to use Antonio Johnson, Darnell Savage, maybe some other guys at that other safety spot. Rayshawn Jenkins last season had 66 tackles.
Yeah.
And Cisco had 62. So you kind of get the feeling that it'll be that sort of split again in 2024, even with Ryan Nielsen in there as the new coordinator. And there's also this to take into account. I'm boom on that front 7, man. We talked about Devin Lloyd. We've talked about Aluakon, obviously. Armstead coming in there to go along with Trayvon Walker and Hines Allen. They may be so good and effective that Andre Cisco doesn't get as many opportunities. Jags were good against the run for the most part last season. And that may have spoke to Cisco going from 73 tackles in 2022 to 11 fewer in 2023. So I'm going to go slightly under the 67.5, not because I don't think Cisco will do his damnedest to be involved, because I think you hit on it too, in terms of what this year could mean to him financially. I don't think initiative isn't going to be a problem. I just don't know if the ball is going to find him as much. Now, something else you have to consider, and we'll get into this with interceptions, is how the Jags are going to play coverages against the pass, and how that could create some opportunities for him as well. And speaking of that, let's get into interceptions. Evan, I tried to name you Jag.
Jag Reier.
Jag Reier. Let's get into interceptions over under for Cisco in 2024. Had 3 in 2022, up to 4 a year ago. So obviously I'm going 4.5 in 2024. What do you think about that number?
I think that number is a little too high, just for me. I think 3, when you're setting the line there, it's either 3.5 or 4.5. Like, you got to kind of pick one of those. And if it was, I think 4 is kind of the number. I think 4 is, obviously he did it last year. He's kind of, become a guy where, 7 interceptions over 2 seasons. He's clearly, going to make a pick or 2. But I think as a safety, it's pretty dang rare when they hit 5 or more. It's a
lot.
It doesn't happen a lot. So personally, I think I'm going to take the under. I do think he probably gets 4 or, maybe 3, but I think if he got 5, then those Pro Bowl aspirations we're talking about, those would be actualized. Like, I don't see, like, if you get to 5 as a safety, like, I don't know how you're not a Pro Bowler at that point.
Yeah, if we get back into this, dig back into this, let's say in mid to late January, hopefully early February or somewhere like that, and we go back and we see that he checked the box for tackles over and interceptions over, yeah, I think would both be surprised if he wasn't a Pro Bowler, because that obviously would speak to what your point was earlier, in that he stayed on the field too. Something that'll be interesting with Ryan Nielsen for me is how they play coverage, especially with the corners, because if they're going to come up and challenge receivers and play more man coverage, I think that's going to be tougher for corners in some ways to maybe intercept passes. Whereas safeties coming over the top, things like that, providing help, they might get those opportunities. And I think Andre Cisco is going to get a lot of opportunities, and enough certainly to go beyond 4 or 5. But I'm kind of like you. I'm going to need to see it first for that one. I'm going to go slightly under. 4 sounds about right. But I do think, again, in this defense, where the corners aren't going to probably be in a zone as much. I don't anticipate it anyway. If there's a player or an area on that back end in that secondary that should have a chance to turn people over, it should be those safeties. And we saw it from Antonio Johnson last year too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this with Nielsen and also, the new pieces coming in, it is kind of a hard thing to really determine, just exactly how their roles are going to shift and who, is kind of being set up to regress or up their production. So no, it's there's a lot to figure out, in terms of that. But still, I like to think that Cisco will, come close to these totals at the very least. I mean, I wasn't always the biggest fan of his, I'm not going to lie. But now, really over the past 2 years, I feel like he's kind of made an undeniable thing that, yeah, this is a guy you want on your team.
We go back to the run defense too, and how that could help Cisco go over the 4.5. I mean, if they are against the run, what we're thinking, guess what that's going to make opposing offenses do more of? That's throw the football. And
Absolutely.
if we think Arik Armstead's going to help that pass rush, what else is going to help Andre Cisco, right? Pass rush, errant throws, tip balls, things like that in the middle of the field, pressure up into the face of a quarterback. If Arik Armstead can provide more of that at 6'7", that's going to produce some errant throws that should be available to guys like Andre Cisco. So there you go, Ev. It's been a big Andre Cisco show today.
Day.
It's been start to finish, just Andre Cisco. Can't do any mo of Andre Cisco. We probably could actually, but anything else, Ev, before we get out of here?
No, that's all I got.
That's all you got? That's all I got. That's all we've got on No Sleep Teal. We hope you've got something for us. In other words, we hope that you'll subscribe to our channel here at Reier on YouTube. And if you don't mind, hit a thumbs up, a like. We'd appreciate that as well. Turn on those notifications. You'll get all of our content as it drops right here on at Reier on YouTube. Well, on YouTube. For Evan Reier, Travis Reier, thanks again for joining us right here on NST. And until next time, so long, everybody.